Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to the most censored comedian in the world. No, not in the world, but in America. How's everybody doing out there? Hope you're having a good day. This episode, I'm calling Media Breakdown. I'm going to be doing these more regularly, assuming you guys like them. If it proves that you all just viscerally hate them, then I'll have to reassess. But for now, the plan is to do this more often. I'm going to watch CNN and MSNBC and Fox News and the others with you, and we're going to analyze the propaganda together. This will be I'll be doing this most commonly on Fridays, and for this week I have it depends on how much time we have, but I have at least a lovely some lovely clips from CNN and MSNBC. And anyway, I'd love to see your comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. At the end of this live stream, I will also be doing the Q&A for the locals members only. That is at leecamp.net. So if you're watching there, we will do a Q&A towards the end of this. But let's just get into it. And I always stress this because I want people to understand that this bullshit that I'm about to show you, it's not like I spent hours searching for CNN bullshit. I literally just turn it on and hit play, and that's what I analyze because it takes a lot more time, and I'm lazy, and I don't want to sit here looking through 14 hours of CNN to find the perfect clip. But more importantly than that, I don't spend hours looking for the perfect clip because I want to show people that it's all like this, that it's all garbage. So, and of course, also we'll learn a lot about these various stories as well. But okay, so this is let's just jump into a clip from CNN. By the way, if you can't hear anything or something doesn't sound good enough, let me know. I like to know those things. And yeah, this is just CNN from today.
Sarah, that is exactly what is under investigation now by the Pentagon, by the Air Force.
Oh, yeah, I should mention that this is, they're talking about, as you can see at the top there, Pentagon document leak, the leak case, and the leaker, who we should say, and you may know this, but CNN will not mention this, that it was leaked. These things, the person who leaked them was outed by the media. The media ran and found out who leaked them and then got them arrested. So, you can decide how you feel about that our media is running around making sure leakers and whistleblowers get arrested. You can decide how you feel about that on your own there. But anyway, so that's the topic at hand.
Inspector General. They're both trying to figure out why so many of these red flags in Teixeira's background apparently went unheeded during the process of him getting a top secret security clearance. And prosecutors were...
Now you can see down at the bottom there that it says Russian military. Oh, actually, my dumb face is in the way. Pennant with Russian military insignia found in suspect's room. Now, when they showed this earlier, they don't exactly make it clear what insignia it is that they're talking about. But first of all, it looks like, I'll show it to you later, but it looks like it's a hazmat symbol. So I don't know whether Russia uses the hazmat symbol or the toxic, radioactive symbol for some Russian military, but it doesn't. My point is it possible this guy just had the hazmat symbol on his dartboard or whatever? But beyond that, this is the old, prosecuting someone in the public eye. It's guilt before there's been a jury of his peers, before there's been any court proceedings really almost at all. And we are using our media, using CNN, using MSNBC and Fox News to indict this guy, this U.S. military guy who supposedly leaked this stuff. They will occasionally say the word allegedly, but when you have outed someone, show his face, say over and over about how did it happen that he was able to leak this stuff, and then you've already indicted him. You've already gotten this guy prosecuted in the public mind. So this is supposed to be against everything we believe in terms of our justice, quote unquote, justice system in America. But, none of that bugs CNN. They don't give a shit, right? They're just going to go ahead and prosecute this guy as they did with Edward Snowden before. Well, actually, no, Edward Snowden is different because he actually said he was the leaker. Now, I'll talk more about Snowden later because she mentions him. But anyway, let's keep going.
Revealed a lot of new evidence in their court filings earlier this week about just what those red flags were, including that he was suspended from his high school for making violent remarks about guns, about Molotov cocktails, things that generally made his classmates feel very uncomfortable.
Isn't that what we're looking for with our U.S. military? Isn't that what they fucking do? They are a giant look. Even if you want to be the biggest promoter of U.S. military, it is a machine of organized mass human murder. Now, if you wanted to back that, then you would say, "But I like who they're murdering." That may be how you put it, but it is a machine of organized mass human murder. That is what our military is, and it is the largest machine of organized mass human murder in the world ever. And what type of people do they largely want at their machine of mass human murder? They want people that are into mass human murder. That is what they're looking for. Now, I'm not saying that every soldier in America, every troop is just into murdering people. That would be bullshit. Many of them are not. But the stuff she just mentioned, he made violent comments in high school. I bet you 70%, maybe more, of the U.S. military cadets have said some violent shit in high school. That's what they're looking for. We are a giant war criminal manufacturing factory. That is what our military industrial complex does, is make and pump out and push down the conveyor belt war criminals. Now, again, not all of them. Many of them are doing other things in the Pentagon that are not the war crimes, but still, they're kind of the manpower, female power, whatever, woman power behind many of the war crimes. Just to throw the number out there again, 6 million have been killed by our global war on terror. And that's a lot of what we've been doing the past 20 years, right? Global war on terror, 6 million killed, almost all of them innocent civilians. And that is what our machine does. And here she is saying, how in the world did someone making violent comments end up in our military? That's what it's for. That's what our military is for. Taking people that have violent thoughts and saying, hey, go do your violence over here. That's where we'd like it to be. I mean, again, even if you like our military and you're promoting, you're like USJ, American military is the best all the time. Even if you were doing that, you still can't deny that it's like, but they want their people to be violent. They're promoting ongoing, endless war. You don't exactly get a bunch of peaceniks who say, I'm opposed to all military action. You don't grab those people up in high school and send them out to the front lines. So how does she act shocked? How do any of these people act shocked that this kid had violent thoughts in high school?
And that was only 3 years before he was granted this top secret clearance. He was only...
Oh, you mean he was a child? Oh, we put children into our military? Yeah, we do. That's what we do. In fact, most of our military is children. By my, I'm an old man now. I'm 42. I view 20-year-olds as children. Okay, they are children. They don't understand the world. They don't understand what our military is used for. And they're children given guns and told to go kill people who they literally can't understand. Like, they don't understand their culture. They don't understand their language. Like, if the person tries to speak to them, they can't understand it, and they're told to go shoot those people or drop a bomb from Las Vegas, where you're looking at a grainy thing. What? I see a little white speck there. I think it's a bad guy. Boop. Let's blow up that whole village. They are children. So she's like, he was in high school only 3 years before given classified status. And that's because all of our military's children, most of the really active ones. So that's how you end up with children with classified status.
About 20 when he did so. So a lot of questions here about why that wasn't flagged, why it didn't prevent him from getting a clearance, in addition to the fact, according to prosecutors, that he applied twice for a gun identification.
Hold on. So there was the emblem that they highlighted earlier, which look, maybe there is a Russian military. I'm not saying I know for certain that there's no Russian military insignia on his board there. But the one they highlighted earlier, and a part I couldn't, I didn't hit record soon enough. It seemed like it's this like hazmat toxic chemical symbol. But beyond that, let's say he does have a Russian military insignia. Don't a lot of U.S. troops have random shit on their bulletin boards, like Chinese military, Russian military? A lot of them have Nazi insignia on their, like, I don't know that this is that unusual. I don't know that you could say, oh, this guy was just trying to help Russia because he leaked documents and he had a Russian military thing on his bulletin board along with all this other shit, like there's a firing range poster there. It's just, again, this is indicting someone in the media before they've ever had a chance to put forward any kind of defense. The kid's in prison right now. And I'm not even at the moment for this analysis, I'm not even taking a stance on whether it's good or bad that he leaked this stuff. I mean, it's good, but it's good because the U.S. is a inverted totalitarian state that makes everything classified and won't show the American citizens anything about what it's doing anywhere around the world. So when we find out things about what's going on behind the scenes, that's actually good for the information for the voters, because we're supposed to be voting on these people, deciding who's in office, deciding who's making decision in our name, in our goddamn name, putting blood on our goddamn hands. So, information's good. But even if I weren't taking a stance on whether it's good or bad that he did this, this is still just prosecuting him in the media without any kind of understanding of who he is, what he did, why he did it. They're just like, we found an emblem on a bulletin board in his room that says that he was wearing a Che t-shirt. Yeah, they sold those at Target for 12-year-olds who don't even understand who Che was. Okay. He had a Che poster. 97% of everybody in my college, when I walked into their dorm rooms, had Che posters up, and they were all, serious capitalists because they didn't even understand who Che was. They just liked the poster. That's how fucked up capitalism and consumerism is. It'll take someone like Che Guevara to take an image of his face and sell it for $19.99.
Identification card, and was actually rejected by the local police department in Massachusetts because they were uncomfortable with the fact that he had been suspended over these violent remarks. So all of this.
Now that part kind of scares me. Rejected by a police department. That's fucking horrifying. Because, our police departments in America are impressively brutal. So the idea that they were like, this guy sounds a little brutal is any police department. That's scary. That part's scary. However, I'm not surprised that the Pentagon then snatched him up. It's kind of like if an NFL team was like, yeah, we're not going to draft that guy because he poked out a dude's eye and he really plays dirty and he punches people in the balls and all this shit. And so we're not going to draft that fella because he seems a little unhinged. And then the other team, the Raiders or whoever, are like, then he's ours. We want the guy who pokes the eyes and punches the balls. Give him to us. That's what the Pentagon is, apparently. So the police in, what'd she say, Wisconsin or Minnesota or something, said this kid is too violent. We don't want him. And then the Pentagon was like, too violent, you say? Send him our way. He sounds excellent.
Is taken together, really raising questions within the Pentagon, especially post Snowden, after this massive overhaul of the vetting process.
I love how she throws post Snowden in there like she just said Satan, especially post Lucifer. Excuse me, but Snowden told and revealed to all of us, that the government was not working in our names, was in fact surveilling us, its own citizens, aggressively, and ignoring all laws about whether we should have privacy, whether we should be able to communicate and not have the police or the government look into that unless they have a warrant. They threw all that out the window, and Snowden revealed that to us, making him, a hero, okay? That's what he revealed to us. And meanwhile, she threw it in like post-Snowden, in the world where Snowden has already happened. Like she just said, Ted Bundy or some shit. post the flaying and quartering, drawing and quartering of that small child by Edward Snowden. But that's what our media is. You know, our media supports all of the tearing up of any rights of American citizens. They are a rich cabal of assholes. And I get that not every CNN reporter is making millions of dollars. I don't know that this woman here is a millionaire. That's kind of not really the point. The point is that she's making a good living in order to do the bidding of the corporate, the corporate America, of the ruling elite that want her to act like Snowden is the big bad guy. Any leaker is a big bad guy. Anyone who reveals the intricacies of the game plan of the U.S. empire is a big bad guy. And so we have to tar and feather this leaker, is what's happening here. And she's more than happy. Natasha here is more than happy to be involved in that.
To detect insider threats, how this was not caught sooner. And of course, there are questions about the insignia that was found in his bedroom, including things that were apparently sympathetic to the Russian general staff, as well as a cache of weapons that the FBI.
Sympathetic is another one of those terms they throw in there where they don't have any proof that this guy or whoever they happen to be referencing is like in bed with Russia. You know, I was called all of these names. I probably still call it all of these names when I worked at RT America, despite the fact that I'm an American in America covering American news and I wrote all of my own shit and was never censored. I was always sympathetic to Russia. He's helping Russia. He's an agent for Russia. And none of it's true. None of it has ever been true. But they just love the term sympathetic. They found a fucking little badge or whatever it was on his bulletin board there, and now they're certain this guy is sympathetic to Russia.
FBI found when they searched his bedroom. Now, the Pentagon is saying that they have a very prescribed process for the security.
I think I interrupted that part, but they said they found guns, I think, when they searched his bedroom.
Process for the security clearance vetting process, and they searched his bedroom. Now, the Russian general staff, as well as a cache of weapons that the FBI found when they searched his bedroom. Now,
listen to how shocked she is. They found weapons in his bedroom. He works for the U.S. military. Like, this is the type of people they hire. This is the type of people they enlist, is people who want to hoard guns and wreak havoc. Like, he had weapons. Ooh. I mean, you don't commit war crimes around the world and then as a conglomerate, as a group, commit war crimes around the world and then be shocked that the individuals involved in your organization have guns. I mean, but yeah, he had weapons. But the other thing, which this is all doing, and this is to get to a little bit of a deeper level than this, just than all the bullshit they're putting out right here, but is that this is a long-term process of getting everybody to look away from what was in the leaks, at least the stuff that was bad for the American empire, and either look at some of the leaks that are useful to the U.S. government and military, or just look at the leaker. And this was done heavily with Snowden, even more heavily, because with Snowden, basically everything he leaked was awful for the U.S. government and the Americans' view of the U.S. government. And so they made everything about how evil Snowden is, how bad Snowden is, how terrible it is, how did this happen? It was all about that. None of it was about what was in the actual leaks, or very little of it was about what was in the actual leaks, the mass surveillance of American citizens. And so this one, the mainstream media has done two things. They for a while, they didn't know who the leaker was, so they had to make it all about, well, let's funnel people's attention towards the things that is actually good for the U.S. to show, like that we've infiltrated a lot of Russia military or something like that. and away from the things that's bad for the U.S., such as the fact that Ukraine is not doing well in this proxy war, and the fact that the U.S. has been spying on allies, which it seems like every time there's a leak, it always involves the U.S. is spying on allies. Don't all our allies know that the U.S. does nothing but spy on them? Like, have they not figured that out yet? Anyway.
The Pentagon is saying that they have a very prescribed process for the security clearance vetting process, and that the vast majority of people who do receive these clearances are not bad actors. Here's what the Pentagon press secretary said just yesterday.
An adjudicator follows a very prescribed process that examines a sufficient period in a person's life to make an affirmative determination that that person is eligible first for security.
First of all, why ever talk to this guy? Why ever listen to a word he's saying? He is a press secretary for a war and death machine. Like, that's 2 strikes against you. That is, you never listen to a press secretary for any type of organization because their job is to lie in a way that benefits that organization. But beyond that, never listen to a press secretary for the largest machine of mass human murder that exists on the planet. That is step 1 in propaganda. Never listen to the lying face of the largest machine of mass human murder. That is step 1 in your education on how to not fall for propaganda. Beyond that, this guy, obviously war criminal, manufacturing consent for endless war. So why listen to a war criminal? Like, I just go about my life with kind of a policy of like, I don't want to listen to a war criminal. I'm not going to do that, like, ever. So that's kind of how I do things. I don't know. You guys can do things differently. But beyond all that, he's talking about vetting these people. How did this guy possibly get through? And I won't go through my rant again, but how did he get through? Because this is what they want. They want high school kids that want to get into the U.S. military and make violent statements. Like, that is what they're looking for. They're like, you made a bunch of statements about how you want to kill others. Well, we have the others you can kill. Right this way, Sonny.
Clearance. And then eligibility for access to classified information is predicated upon the individual meeting personnel security guidelines.
So another major question, though, has to do with his behavior while he was actually in the military. Of course, according to prosecutors, he was posting things online about wanting to kill people, about wanting to use his van as a weapon to shoot.
Someone in our military wanted to kill people? My God. I wish I had on pearls I could clutch right now. Yeah, that's what they do. That's what our military is.
Out of the back of it in crowded suburban areas. Why wasn't the Pentagon able to catch that? And of course, the big alleged leak of classified documents much sooner, Sarah.
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of red flags there. Thank you so much, Natasha Bertrand.
Just a lot of red flags there. I don't know how we didn't catch this person saying they wanted to do all of the things our military does. I don't know how they let this through. Normally, the Pentagon only hires peaceniks with little doves on their Facebook pages. They generally only allow in cadets who have a lot of photos of people sitting in a circle, playing the drums of some sort or holding hands. People looking up to sunlight in a whimsical manner. Usually that is the only type of postings they allow on Facebook, Instagram, and the such when they're bringing people into the largest machine of mass human murder. That is it. Sometimes dandelions, if there's like a short video of the person picking dandelions, they'll accept that as well. But outside of that, nope. Do not let them into the U.S. military.
And live for us from the Pentagon, John.
So this morning, a political announcement that has the potential to shift the balance of power.
All right, new story, folks. You ready for it? Again, like I said, I'm not picking these. I'm just watching CNN.
Or in the U.S. Senate. West Virginia Governor Jim Justice, a Republican, announced his candidacy for the U.S. Senate seat now held by Democrat Joe Manchin. The Republican governor announced his candidacy to a room full of...
Okay, did you catch that? This could change the balance of power in the Senate. because, you know, things are very different when the Republicans are in power versus when the Democrats are in power. Have you guys all noticed that things are very different, just completely different types of things happen across America when the Democrats have the Senate versus when the Republicans have the Senate? It is just heads and tails different. Oh, or maybe they all agree on 98% of the structural issues of this country, and essentially nothing changes but the fucking icing on the cake. Nothing changes but the wallpaper. You'll hear different things. Some people might say nicer things, but how much difference is there in the actions of the Congress? You'll notice if they want to do something super shitty in Congress, such as give over $4 trillion to Wall Street in the middle of a pandemic, that just flies straight through, right? Just flies through. Not really very many hiccups. Happens in a matter of weeks, sometimes a matter of months. But if they want to do something like, I don't know, increase the minimum wage to something that is actually still not livable, but closer to livable, that could never happen. Okay. That's been going for 15, 20 years now. The strong protests and fights for $15 an hour. That can't happen. Can't get through. I don't know what it is. The Democrats just can't get it through. The last time $15 was going to get through, the Democrats said the parliamentarian stopped them. That's right. The parliamentarian was the only reason the Democrats could not raise the minimum wage. And, you know, damn it. They were so close. Democrats were so close to changing everything. And so CNN wants you to know that this guy running for office here, this waste of a lot of space in the world, this sack of human garbage, him running for Congress is going to change everything. It's going to change everything, folks. And then he talks about Joe Manchin being a Democrat, which Joe Manchin is not a Democrat. Joe Manchin is a Republican, but they mean the same thing nowadays, essentially. So why are we even pretending these are different things?
Supporters, including Senators Shelley Moore Capito and Lindsey Graham, everyone there knows that a shift of just one seat in 2024 could throw the Senate to the Republicans.
And also keep in mind that the amount of coverage so far, so they're giving about 30 seconds so far to this campaign by this waste of human space. Humans actually arguable. Waste of rat-faced, rotting raccoon carcass space. They've given about 30 seconds to this guy's campaign, promoting him because they're telling people about him. I think that's more than they gave Bernie Sanders in the entire 2016 campaign.
And it is our chance. It is our chance right now.
And by the way, can I just say this guy, I'm sorry, I don't follow West Virginia politics a lot. You guys may know him quite well. But he just a real dynamo, wouldn't you say? Like you see this guy and you think just change and energy. This guy doesn't just represent the old white patriarchy. He is actually the size of the old white patriarchy. He is the dais upon which the old white patriarchy stands.
You know, if you look at the math and you look at everything and you look at, well, what happens if this doesn't happen in 2024?
You notice this guy's out of breath, sitting on a stool, like out of breath.
Now just imagine this country on the pathway that we're on with the Biden administration today.
Now, here's where I'll agree with him. We are on a terrible path with the Biden administration, but it's not because Biden is too left-wing, which is what this guy's saying, right? He's trying to tell you that, oh man, that left-wing socialist Biden needs to be stopped. No, we're in a catastrophic scenario in this country because none of you ruling elite, this guy, Biden, all of them, Manchin, Lindsey Graham, etc., none of you give a fuck about average people at all. So as this guy acting like Biden's too left wing, that's some of the best stuff. Maybe I'll try and find a clip next time of Fox News saying this. Fox News is just segment after segment on how left wing Joe Biden is, on how horribly left wing this government is. Right.
And imagine this country as to what it would be if we continue on that pathway to 2030 or beyond.
Yep, because everything was, I don't know about you guys, but I thought everything was going swimmingly under Trump. Trump or Biden, Bush, they've all just done great jobs, and it's just been Biden that has really screwed shit up, really gotten us off the rails. Oh, or maybe none of them are different. They're all the same, and they're all in favor of unfettered capitalist destruction of our natural world and every citizen who doesn't have $1 million in the bank. And maybe they all agree on that. Huh? Could that be a thing? No.
Joining us now is Hoppy Kercheval. He is the host of Metro News Talk Line on what.
All right, I'm cutting this moron off because I want to get to one other clip before I go to the Q&A at leecamp.net. If I can actually do it here. I probably don't need to show you guys every boring moment of this, but okay.
For a lifeline.
All right. So this is now MSNBC. Show you a bit of that. And again, let's just watch some MSNBC. You know, they're awesome. MSNBC they just do a great job, don't they? They're just giving you the news.
For a lifeline. Let's bring co-anchor of CNBC Squawk Box, Andrew Ross Sorkin, with the latest.
So this is a story about how another bank is going to fail. First Republic is on the verge of failing.
Andrew?
Thanks. It looks like this may be the weekend for either.
Now, can I just say, I'm certain this guy's eyebrows have been CGI'd on. All right. I think that I'm pretty certain of that. His eyebrows are CGI.
There's some kind of private market solution, or perhaps this time around a quote resolution of the firm. In that case, a government intervention. That's what's on the table at this point. This is a company that's lost 50% of its deposits, and the big question now is.
I'll keep. There we go. Okay. What they won't tell you is that this wouldn't be happening if we didn't have a lot of things, but if we didn't have fractional reserve banking, in which a bank has a fraction of what they loan out, gamble on the stock exchange, etc. So you have banks that technically have people with billions of dollars in their bank. They're holding that money, right? But in fact, they're only obligated to have 1/10 of the amount that's in there. So whenever people decide, hey, things seem a little sketchy, I'm going to take my money out, and you have just a few people do that, and all of a sudden the bank's like, oh, we're out of money. What do you mean you're out of money? I gave you my money to hold my money. And they're like, yeah, about that. We don't actually hold the money. We give most of it out to try and win big on Wall Street, and we give it to large entities, like ExxonMobil. Maybe they want to build a pipeline, so we loan it out to them, and just stuff like that. And so the money that you thought you put here, we don't have. We do have a couple of dollars. I can give you $5 right now. But $7 final offer. So, this is, and that's just one, I'm giving you one little piece of the entire puzzle that they will not tell you as they cover our economy, as they cover the fact that these banks are failing, as they cover the fact that people are suffering.
Is whether there are enough private firms that are going to come in to try to save this company and save this bank. It will probably cost $30 billion either way, oddly enough, in part because what you're going to have is an FDI. If the company gets, or the bank gets resolved, which effectively means it fails, you're going to have the FDIC come in but the FDIC is all the other banks. So there's going to be a cost.
So another thing that they won't mention is the FDIC insures up to $250,000 in a bank account. So when they say that people are freaking and they're going to lose all their money and stuff, it's people with over $250,000 in their bank account, almost entirely. Now, this speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to how rich many Americans have become. It also, especially when you compare the United States to so many other countries, and the fact that the U.S. can just print money infinitely. We apparently added 20% to the money supply during the pandemic as we pumped literally over $4 trillion, $4.5 trillion into Wall Street. But it also speaks to the fact that people are worried about their money and they start pulling it out, and they then say, well, hold on, let's make sure that everyone is made whole. And this is what they did with the first few banks that collapsed, because they're bailing out often billionaires. They're bailing out people with insane amounts of money. And sometimes they're doing it with taxpayer money. Oftentimes they make a big point of saying it's not done with taxpayer money, but it also shows what a house of cards this fucking economy is. This unfettered capitalist fractional reserve shit show where you have people with billions of dollars betting it on Wall Street, and then a few little things happen, and a little interest rate ticks up, and all of a sudden everyone flips the fuck out because this is such a tenuous system. This is not how the system should be set up. It's not how it should work. There's a million other ways to set up economies, and we act like this is it. This is all we got. This is the only way this could ever be set up. We could only have it so that one tiny thing changes and everything collapses, and the rich, we have to funnel taxpayer money into the rich to make sure they walk away with their riches. That is the only way to do it. The only way to do it. Capitalism has a boom-bust cycle on average every 7 years. There's a bust that generally destroys poor and average people's lives and generally does not destroy the rich. That's the only way to set it up, really? Just to have people's lives destroyed every 7 years. That's the only economy you could ever come up with. No other option? Okay, good, got it.
To them, whether they try to save it in a private market solution or a quote-unquote public market solution. One of the big questions, though, is you may remember that about 11 banks gave First Republic $30 billion in deposits, uninsured deposits, just to sit there to try to strengthen the firm. Happens to them.
Right,
is this quote unquote implicit guarantee for $50,000 in any account by the FDIC? Janet Yellen has told everybody that you should.
He's basically asking what's going to happen to the money of the rich, which is not easy. You've got to use a lot of little interesting terms and linguistics tricks and mental gymnastics to get your average viewer of CNN or MSNBC to give a shit about what happens to the richest Americans. What we gotta make sure that the richest people in the country are still happy. They're only going to walk away with $250,000. What are they gonna do?
Feel comfortable and safe with your money there. So that's going to be a fascinating question to discover this weekend, how all of this gets resolved.
All right. CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin, thank you very, very much.
Thanks.
Washington's press corps will gather tomorrow for the White House Correspondents' Dinner, an event.
You'll also notice that that's the extent of the coverage. They didn't get to any of the things I mentioned, obviously, but they didn't get to any of the things about, capitalism, whether it's the best system, all of those things. They didn't get to any of that. They just covered it for a total of, I don't know what that was, 1 minute, 2 minutes. And they basically had him come on and say, what's going to happen to the money of the rich? And that was the entirety of the coverage. And then she quickly shifts gears because we don't want people thinking about how our banks could be failing. So we'll give them a couple of minutes of what's going to happen to the money of the rich. Let's make sure the rich get their money. We'll do that for a couple of minutes, and then we'll shift. We'll shift over.
That raises money to support current journalists and scholarships for the press of the future. Joining us now, President.
So he's talking about the press corps dinner and literally says it's the press corps dinner, which you guys, most of you know it, is this fucking grand gala. Most of the people there are the richest of the rich of the corporate media. A bunch of oligarchs in the room. And it's to raise money for journalists. Yeah, which journalists? You mean the ones at independent outlets that are fucking barely scraping by? Is that the type of journal? Oh, no, it's to raise money for the journalists that have come into the corporate media fold, that have agreed to do the bidding of the U.S. empire. Some of them consciously, some of them don't know what they're doing. But either way, those are the type of people we're raising money for mainly. You know, make sure they're doing all right.
President of the White House Correspondents Association Board, Tamara Keith. She's White House correspondent for NPR and co-host of the NPR Politics podcast. And it's great to have you on the show. We love talking about this event. It can be a controversial event. It can be a really fun and funny event, sort of where the press and the White House get to make fun of each other.
It's so fun and funny. If you've ever watched so I'm just gonna say a couple of things about this, and then I'm gonna switch over, and we're only gonna keep going for members only at leecamp.net. That's my locals page. That's the only way I support what I'm doing, and I will be doing Q&A over there, answering your questions at leecamp.net on locals. But the White House Correspondents' Dinner, first of all, it is mainly the top echelon of corporate media. So it's mainly rather rich people. I'm not saying everyone there is incredibly rich, but most of them. It also has many of the oligarchs there, right? The Obamas and the Bidens and the Trumps. Trump has been there before, although he skipped them when he was president because he didn't want to be made fun of. And most of the time, there are exceptions, and I'll mention some of the exceptions in a moment, but there are exceptions, but most of the time it's kind of an acceptable type of humor where these war criminals and the worst of the worst type of human beings get into a room and go, ha ha, isn't it all just a game? Isn't it all just so funny that we're doing this, that we're raping and pillaging the world, and we can all get together every once in a while and just smack each other on the back and say, woo! But no, that can't be, they can't mention that, of course, but it's disgusting. It's all disgusting. And there's, there was occasional kind of an exception to that. Like, for example, Stephen Colbert gave a speech that was pretty gut wrenching against George W. Bush. And many people talked about it as a pretty impressive moment. I happen to know one of Colbert's producers who helped write his speech at the press corps. And apparently Stephen Colbert, who has now become just a, standard liberal late night host, didn't really understand that he was doing anything wrong. I wanted to believe at the time, I was like, whoa, Colbert fucking nailed George Bush. But apparently Colbert thought he was just doing what he normally does, which is make fun of the rulers. But it was a pretty damn good tank down. But he apparently didn't really know what he was doing and know that he had crossed the line, so to speak. But beyond that, Randy Credico got a ticket into the White House Correspondents' Dinner a couple of years ago and brought up the topic of Julian Assange and stood up and said, how can you all get together? He's in the audience. How can you all get together to do this and not mention Julian Assange, who's being tortured in prison right now, one of the best known journalists in the world, and none of you are standing up? And he was dragged out. Randy Credico was dragged out and thrown out on the street, which is what they do when the truth confronts these journalists and the ruling elite. That truth is then thrown out on the street. I've been digitally thrown out on the street as the most censored comedian in America, but Randy Credico was physically thrown out on the street during this thing. So let's go over to leecamp.net, locals, and I will answer your questions there. And thank you guys so much for joining me. I do live streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday that are open to everyone. And then on Fridays, this one is now going to be open for the first 45 minutes. And then the last bit will be last 25 minutes or so will be Q&A at leecamp.net. So thanks everyone for joining me, and we will begin that part in a moment.